All right, we're down to our last two games now on this edition of Hitting the Books, and this is one of the biggest games of the entire weekend. Georgia, Alabama, rivalry renewed in the SEC. This should be awesome. Georgia, 2-point road favorites, 48.5 the total here in this game. 7:30, it'll be your Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit special on ABC. Should be great. Looking forward to it. I'm interested in Bama here, I got to admit. And I know they got to win this game in order to cover the number because they're only a 2-point home underdog. But if Georgia doesn't improve offensively on what they showed me against Kentucky, they're not winning this game. They were fortunate to escape by the skin of their teeth with a rough offensive night from Carson Beck and the entire Georgia Bulldogs offense against Kentucky because Kentucky's got no offense themselves. They won't escape Alabama with an offensive game like that because unlike Kentucky, Alabama's got a pretty good quarterback in Jalen Milroe. Unlike Kentucky, Alabama has a good offensive mind and a good offensive game planner, an offensive scheme designer in Kalen DeBoer, who brought one of his offensive coaches, Nick Sheridan, from Washington to be the offensive coordinator. They will not get away with putrid offense in this game on the road in Tuscaloosa at night against Alabama. And that's the critical component of this handicap, C-Mac. Can Georgia improve offense? If Georgia plays up to their capability, because I think they could be an excellent offense. They were supposed to be. But too many times this year, especially that Kentucky game, they didn't get, even the Clemson game, where even though they won big, it took a while for Georgia's offense to really get it kicked into high gear against Dabo and Clemson in that game. And then in the other games, there's been times where, they just for 4 quarters have not been completely lighting it up the way we expected. So again, Clemson, it took a while. Tennessee Tech, you can't put much into that. And the Kentucky game was alarming. 21.5-point favorites, 13-12, only 160 passing yards. They couldn't run the football. Trevor Etienne only had 79 rushing yards on 19 attempts. If the offense is going to stagnate like that here, I think Alabama's got a great shot to win this game. It's that simple. And the question is the Alabama defense, which hasn't been overly tested to this point of the season when you look at who they've gone against. South Alabama, Western Kentucky, and Wisconsin, you will be tested more by Georgia. But I don't know. The more I watch Georgia, the more I kind of think their offensive issues are not just a one-game thing with Kentucky. It could continue here. And if it's a close game late, and I think it probably will be, who's going to make the big play to win the game offensively? Carson Beck or Milroe? Who's going to make the big play call late in the game? The Georgia offensive coordinator or Kalen DeBoer, one of the great minds in college football on offense from a coaching standpoint? I trust DeBoer with my life in a spot like that. So I'm interested in Bama to get the job done here and hand Georgia their first loss of the season. Leaning that way at the moment. Should be, obviously, this is a great watch. Get your popcorn ready for this one on Saturday night. C-Mac, what do you think here? Georgia, Alabama.
Yeah, Bama here at night. It's just as big as it gets here in college football. I want to get to the total first.
One thing I'll say before you continue, neither team is out of the playoffs, obviously, with a loss. This is not the old days where one loss and you're done. Both teams still an excellent chance and probably do get in the playoffs even if they lose this game.
Yeah. I want to get to the total because one thing in the past years is even with these teams who have great defenses, these games have gone over the Bano. And even this number now at 48.5, it'd go over the last 2 games. We got to 51. And those totals were a little higher. It stayed under. Georgia has the defense, I think. But it's just when these teams get together, their studs, their speed just seems to work, and the offense clicks.
And now you've got DeBoer, a little bit more of a pass-heavy guy, a little more quicker tempo, just a little bit more quicker tempo, and that certainly helps the over as well.
And how much Georgia, they've looked so good and so dominant. Like, I think the defense is really for real. Kentucky got 12, but nothing against Clemson. But this is their first real test where they played anybody. In the end, normally I'm like, take this under with Georgia. Maybe this keeps going down. I'm going to go the other way, which I've done in national championship games. and the semifinals where these teams have met, or the regular season, and they've gotten over. I might look that way in this one, but I think Bama is live. The Georgia struggles on offense. We'll see. It's still early, and both these teams are off buys too. They didn't play last week, right, Bama? Yeah, they didn't play. So I mean, they were all
usually before these big games, like these showdown games, they give both teams a bye week. Yes, that's
both
the case.
both buys. Yeah. And one other one, Bama too. It's been a great over team. I know in some of these opponents, but they're a great over team. And on the flip side, Georgia's been really good to the under. So, but sidewise, I like Bama too. And you mentioned though, this isn't going to crush them if they have one loss. But man, it should be a ton of fun. I can't wait to watch it.
I'm shocked Georgia struggled. Kentucky's solid defensively, don't get me wrong, but to only score 13, I still think they're a good offensive line. I still like Trevor Etienne. I love I still like Dominic Lovett, Colby Young at receiver. The tight end spot should not be an issue at all. To Oscar Delp, they like this guy stepped in for Bowers when he was injured last year, and he played great at the tight end spot. And yet this year he's kind of had a tough time, and they haven't really targeted him as much. And then you got that Ben Urasek from Stanford, who was a great tight end out there with the Cardinal. You should have enough weapons here, Georgia, to be a good offense. It just didn't happen against Kentucky, unfortunately. But that's a hell of a game on Saturday night. Absolutely looking forward to that.